Now we're moving right along into our first panel discussion about AI in policing with our three esteemed panelists. I'm going to give you guys a little brief bio of them, but of course, if you want to read their full bio, it is available on our website. So our first panelist is Anthony O'Doherty, a 29-year member of law enforcement who is now the Deputy Chief of Innovation, Infrastructure, and Technology at Peel Regional Police. So he knows Chief Nish very well. Heath Newton, a 28-year veteran of policing in British Columbia, who is now the acting superintendent of the Community Policing Bureau at Delta Police Department. And Ron Anderson, who has been Edmonton Police Services Chief Innovation and Technology Officer since 2019, leading the Innovation and Information Bureau. During this session, we'll gain insights into how AI is currently enhancing public safety, we'll explore future opportunities and challenges, and address the crucial ethical considerations surrounding its use. At the end, we'll open it up to a general discussion, and that will be a perfect time to ask any questions that arise during the panel. Now, to our panelists, I welcome you to the virtual stage. Look at you, your cameras are already on, you are ready. So I just first want to say thank you again as we take the time to have this important conversation today. And to start us off, I'd like to give each of you a couple minutes to share how your police service is currently leveraging AI technology to enhance public safety. Anthony, I know Nish briefly touched on this during his keynote, and you may have taken a little bit away, but I'd like to start off with you so you can dive in a little deeper.
Okay, thank you. Not only did he touch on it, I feel like I could just probably go off camera now if you listen to him. And it's the last time I'm going to write him notes for his opening remarks. Listen to everyone that's joined. We thank you for taking the time. It's always an honor. In fact, I'm down here in Washington, D.C. Today and yesterday speaking at a Global Public Safety International Summit on critical communications and how AI actually impacts those decisions on what public safety decides to use. And of course, I know that Ron will be touching on this as well, because I call it, he's my phone a friend for everything in technology. And I always rinse things by Ron, certainly. But I do want to shed a little bit of light on some of the pieces that Chief Duriappa spoke about. So almost 1 year ago today, if you were to call Peel Regional Police in the deepest, darkest moments of your life for help through 911, chances are you were on hold on average for about 3 minutes. And you heard the chief talk to it. You should never be on hold at all for a 911. And through the implementation of next generation technologies, which incorporates the use of AI, specifically in terms of call queuing, automated functions for our dispatchers and call takers, we were able to take those call times down from 3 minutes to like 11 seconds. And these are the types of technologies, impactful technologies, where even the rudimentary use of AI significantly impacts how we can service community. And, that has offshoots into our partners in social services, housing, and all the other systems. In fact, I'm going to speak about that a little bit later on. One of the other areas that we overtly, and of course, there's covert uses of AI when you come to our investigative bureaus who investigate some of the most heinous crimes. But some of our other overt uses relating to AI really revolve around the new approach to servicing community. You heard Chief Nish talk about it, and it's really about using AI to sift through data and provide intelligent information to police and agencies. I'll get to that in a moment, other agencies to do their job. So let me just give you an example. We used to give, and we still do, because it's very important to do so, but the traditional method of providing cops on parade, highlighted areas of where they need to patrol. So, there's break-in enters here, there's car thefts here, we have issues there. What we're now doing is collecting data on social determinants of health and risk factors, risk data. And what we're doing is we're using AI to interpret some of that data to provide our officers, either visually through dashboard, or we call it through pinches of information, to give them a new sort of set of references in their community, a map that would highlight areas that says you have addiction issues here, you have social security issues here, you have housing issues here. And what that does then is allow our officers, and I shouldn't just say officers, in fact, all our members, right? It's a complete team effort. All our members to come around this data, some of it generated through the analysis of current data, AI generated, to be able to knock on our partner's door so that they can knock on a community member's door on a Tuesday when things are okay and provide assistance rather than us getting a 911 call on a Friday when things aren't. And those are some cases and some instances on how we use AI.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Heath, I'm going to ask you the same question. How are you guys using AI at Delta Police right now?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Appreciate the offer to be here. What I would say is this, I don't think policing is as complex as it has ever been as it is right now, especially with regards to AI. Everybody's speaking about it. We are in that upward inflection point, trying to navigate, what does it mean for us in policing? And there's a ton of benefits. And then there can be some negatives, as everybody's talked about, and I'm sure we'll experience in the future. At the heart of it is, as we move towards this technological AI age, the mission of policing still remains the same. And I would suggest or argue that, our goals are as established as Peel made them when he put out his principles, many years ago. So it's about the balance. And so what we've done here at Delta, there's a few different things that we've explored. One is we initiated very early with our drone program to help to get drones out into the field for both officer safety and public safety as well. We've used it extensively with regards to missing people. And then, of course, we've also used it where we've got drone operators on each shift. So if we have a barricaded person or we have an unknown location or a break and enter where, it's just dangerous for members to go to, we can deploy drones, make sure we survey, the area prior to, putting a person into maybe harm's way. That has morphed itself into a drone as a first responder. And those who are not familiar, Delta is fairly unique. We don't have a lot of high rises here. We have a lot of open spaces. It's a suburb of Vancouver. So that has allowed us to get the appropriate authorizations through NavCan to be able to run our drone as a first responder because it's line of sight technology. And we're not fully up and running, but we expect that here within the next couple of months. But we have tested it. It has been extremely valuable, or we do see the value in it. And I think we can all talk about how that plays into part, because we can send a drone perhaps to an area, again, public safety, officer safety, and or maybe we can kind of limit, sending resources to one area when we might not need to, because the drone can go have a quick assessment before we move forward. So as instead of a shots fired call confirmed, maybe it's just fireworks and we can slow our members down. And then finally, we have been at the front end here with regards to body-worn camera, and I know Stafford Ingram is going to talk about that further. That has been a great value to us. It's been a slow rollout. But we are getting good feedback. And when I say it's been a slow rollout, it's because of everything that the Peel chief had to say. Is we have to balance out with what the public wants. I mean, we only exist because of public trust, and if we don't have that, and we don't engage with them, then we're not going to be able to be effective in what we do, and then there's going to be resistance about the technology we use. So we've rolled it out. Obviously, we see it for both with regards to public transparency about what it is that we're doing, peels back some of our issues on complaints or vexatious complaints, and obviously it's best evidence. And so with that, then with regards to AI, it's the automated transcription, which we're working through with our vendor being Axon. So those are three areas where we've been able to kind of move forward with regards to AI and technology. And but again, it's a balance. We want to embrace it and celebrate, the benefits that it comes with, but we have to have our eye on the ball with regards to how much is too much, how much can our members can absorb, and how much will the public allow us to move forward with it because of everything that's out there, both really good information and some disinformation. So,
of course. Thank you so much, Heath. Now, Ron, the same question to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. So Edmonton's been in this game for a little bit of time now. We've had 3 machine learning experts in our service as staff for about 5 years at this point. We got in fairly early in regards to the wave of this from a policing perspective. We started out initially with using them for doing essentially a machine learning model of our dispatch and our patrol response. So we were able to readjust our patrol scheduling and our shifting around an optimization. So initially we started off with things like what happens to us if COVID really hits us hard. So we were able to model our patrol and say, when would our patrol model fall down? We need to shift officers around and pieces like that. From there, we moved into areas of transcription. So we've been working on transcribing surveillance audio. We've been working on interview audio. And most recently, we've been working on quality assurance for our 911 calls. So everybody has the ProQA questions they follow. We've trained our model on the ProQA questions, not just to say, did the dispatcher get the data they needed from that question, or did they say that question? It also detects when the response is also gathered through normal conversation. So we can do our legislative required auditing automatically and only have a human review the ones that don't pass the Q&A process there. I think additionally, we've been working on areas that are what I refer to as productivity areas. So similar to others, the body camera transcription pieces are certainly a very live discussion in our world. We rolled out recently internally in partnership with DRDC Canada, a tool that ingests mass quantities of digital documents for economic crimes. So instead of having an analyst go through the documents for about 30 days and pulling out the entities, the phone numbers, and the transactions, we can now load all those documents into our engine, and it returns all those things through a search tool, a context-sensitive search tool. So what used to take an analyst 30 days now takes about 10 minutes, and the investigators can start to do their actual investigation work. So for us, it's been a lot of internal production. We're watching, I'd say with bated breath, a lot of the conversations with the vending community. There's only so many AI models developed out there, and most of what you see in the community right now is layers of front end over top of 3 or 4 different models. So it's an interesting dynamic right now. But that's where we started. And then most importantly for us, we put a lot of time and effort into a governance model as well.
Fantastic. Now, Heath, I'm going to jump back over to you because while you were chatting, you did mention transparency, and that's where I want to go next. When Delta Police started using AI, how did you communicate this with the community to ensure this transparency and to get them on board?
Yeah, thanks, Bernie. So with regards to British Columbia, we have to do a privacy assessment, and that goes through the Office of the Privacy Commissioner. And so everything that we do in relation to the drones or any other type of AI that we use that is out in the public or CCTV, we go through them for an assessment. They work through the existing legislation, they give us a pass or they don't. And then from there, then we communicate that out to the public through our media channels and, be as clear cut as possible to say, we have reached out to government oversight, being the Privacy Information Commissioner. They've given the green light. This is what we're going to use this technology for. So let's say with regards to the body-worn cameras is, we provide everybody that it will be deployed and the reasons for it. And it's not to go and collect information on people or your image for, a nefarious purpose later. And it's just inch by inch. And I think the more we're transparent, the more communication we have, then people can't fill in the gaps with, disinformation or misinformation. I mean, we can't stop everybody. There's a lot of people there that mistrust everything that the police will say. It doesn't matter, but it's the majority that we want to get to. And because I think we've moved along on a very kind of methodical pace, we've gotten good feedback, good buy-in from the majority of the public.
Of course. And now, Anthony, I'll pass the same question over to you. How did you guys handle the transparency piece and roll out to community members?
Yeah, it's perhaps, and I'm interested to hear Ron on this. I've actually heard him speak to it quite a bit. And Keith, your information, I think provincially, and certainly by community, there could be nuanced differences in how your particular community or province responds. So yes, IPC is very important in, I would just say, informing the process on how public safety is or considers to use of AI. But where the real juice is within the community. And the transparency piece is, hey, let's just face it, our communities are engagement fatigued because of geopolitical issues that are currently ongoing and ongoing since 2020. Police services have engaged community on all sorts of things. And even though artificial intelligence is a very hot button topic within the communities, there's a bit of apathy when it comes around engaging with police because there is a trust and transparency issue and still continues to be. But when you ask the community what they understand or know about AI, and you thoughtfully take time from the ask portion of the engagement, and then inform on the information part of the engagement, you get some real golden nuggets. And this is our approach in our AI statement of principles, which is community informed. And Heath, I heard you say something a little earlier, and it's true. And we don't like to often admit it as police agencies, but really, it will be the community that dictates and tells us what's acceptable to use or not. And if we inform correctly, then we see massive shifts in what is acceptable to community. And let me just give you an example that ties into the trust and transparency issue. So I gave you the 911 example. You phoned Peel last year, you were 3 minutes on hold. You phone now, you're 11 seconds. When the community is informed of what type of technologies go into decreasing that wait time, they're all behind it. Let me juxtapose it with facial recognition, another hot button topic item. With facial recognition, there is consternation around where's my data going? What is my image being used for? Who are you sharing my images with? Are you using it to over police certain areas? And when you understand the concerns of the community, then you can properly inform that and provide information back out to the community. Started with something like a 48% disapproval rate when we first started engaging on facial recognition, all the way up to like an over 75% approval rate, and then we started getting questions, well, why aren't you using it in these cases, which actually offend privacy? And so, and we wouldn't. And so what I'm trying to say is it's not just the engagement part and informing part, really, and it is about the listening part and understanding what the community, you're right, misconceptions, misinformation, disinformation, what may be coming to our community members, and then informing. And then you'll get your real answer. And it may not always be a yes, go for it, but you'll get your real trust and transparency pieces across.
Of course. And now, Ron, I know you mentioned that a lot of your AI is all internal, but how have you guys handled the transparency piece?
Yeah, so it's, the last two comments around the different communities and the different approaches, I think is very apt. In our case, and Anthony and I have had this discussion many, many times, in our case, we consider our commission to be the community, and they are chosen to be representative of the community. So within our structures, we have a technology adoption subcommittee of our commission. So when we look to bring in any technology that has an impact on outside of internal process, for example, we go through that governance process with our technology adoption committee, and then it goes to our commission as a whole. Privacy impact assessments, we have to do them, and the role of that is really to point out areas where you may not have considered everything that you should have when you were going down that path. So for us, we don't do as much of the community consultation. What we do is community education. So when we go through our process, we develop communication plans, and we educate the community about how we're going to use it, what it means, what the guardrails are to keep us on the path. Facial rec is a great example in our community. We went live with it about 3 months after the Clearview AI issues. We did a tremendous amount of communication. We did technical briefings for the media and the public so they could see the tool in use, know the policy that we're using and how we're going to use it. And we haven't had any complaints, questions, or any quite honestly, no FOIP requests on the matter either. So I think you can do this a number of ways, but you certainly have to check that box with the community awareness and community knowledge so that you don't get the surprises like we had with the Clearview AI piece earlier. So we don't get one agency ruining what is a huge opportunity for policing in Canada by going offside and having a gotcha type scenario like we had previously. So I think you can go through this any number of ways that fit your community or fit your police services relationship with the community, but it needs to be done. So to echo Anthony and Heath, it's a mandatory piece you need to think of before you go down these roads on the AI products.
Now, Ron, I'm actually going to bounce the ball back to you. And once you have checked that box and you have talked with the community and consulted them, what additional challenges have there possibly been that you guys have experienced while implementing AI?
Ooh, there's probably more challenges than there are opportunities in a lot of ways. I think we've certainly seen the trust piece is there. I think having staff that understand the technology or the potential, as well as the risks associated. There's a limited number of experts in these types of tools outside of the academic world, for example, and the ones that are out there are in high demand. So getting expertise to help you down the road has been a challenge for us. We've been lucky. We've been able to retain our folks fairly consistently over time. I think cost will be an issue if you aren't sort of working in this space in a skunk works in your own service. You're going to have costs associated to any of these things, and whether it's as a service or you're buying a product or what have you, it's one more thing that goes on the balance sheet at the end of the day. I think that one of the big concerns as the head of an IT bureau, I call it the shiny thing syndrome, where a chief goes to a conference and they see something very shiny and they come back and it's the new thing that they want you to do. And part of our role internally is to help with the decision making around, is this something that will have an operational benefit to you, or is it something where you can say we were the first to do it? Because we shouldn't make decisions off the first to do it. We should be making decisions off how it's going to impact our community and our service. So, and I see Anthony smiling. Chiefs love to see new technology. They love to see it, but we got to make smart choices. And there's a lot of shiny things out there in this space right now.
I was going to say, I saw Anthony laughing too. So I'm going to pass it over to Anthony now. What challenges have you guys seen or experienced?
Chief McPhee and Chief Duriapa have the same shopping problem when it comes to big shiny new, but they're very thoughtful in how they see this implemented. Can I give you macro and then micro examples? The couple macro issues are sequencing your initiatives so that AI integration with all the initiatives is thoughtful. And the whole purpose of AI is to make you more efficient, better, and for things to be interoperable, really. And so sequencing initiatives that make sense. Heath, you're going through the body-worn camera and the transcription phase. Soon your folks are going to want to get rid of notebooks, whether electronic or paper, because the camera takes it all. You're going to use AI technology at some point, like we are doing here in Peel, to make notes, do a report, and condensed transcription all in one shot off all one video feed and we use the same vendor that you do. So from a macro level, it's sequencing everything you're doing to make your organization more efficient. That goes right back to what Ron said. And sometimes it's not just managing up, but also managing down, because your folks are the ones that go to and they're really pressuring for different types of technologies. And, it's like I was buying a boat, and to convince my wife I needed this boat, I told her it was a safety measure. Like policing, your folks are going to come to you and give you the safety excuse. And a lot of times it's legitimate, but it's absolutely sequencing the work you do to make the technologies work together. So that's like the overall macro example of it. On a more micro-related front of challenges with AI, it's your partners. So if you're using an AI technology to do transcription, redaction, to write reports or write notes, there's partners that are involved in the justice system that may not be on the same page as you. There's, your ministry officials. There's your local crown attorneys. There's your internal members, like your detectives, your detective constables, those folks in those specialty units who have done things the same way for a long time, and they work because they're considered the best. I mean, that's good, but taking on new open technologies is a challenge internally. And then Ron had mentioned this earlier. As a matter of fact, he gave me this advice many years ago, is you have to have the supporting foundation for all these technologies to come in, or else you're not really going to get the juice out of each individual one. And so I think from a macro level, it's making sure everyone understands, talking the same language, using AI for what it's intended to be used, servicing the community together, making yourself interoperable as an organization and more efficient. And on the micro level, it comes down to sort of the people and making sure, again, everyone's on the same page, everyone wants to use it, everybody's informed. And then you see the synergies. But can I tell you, those micro challenges are tough to overcome. And it's a lot of time. And this is where, when you talk about AI, there's a leadership piece here. There's a leadership from within the middle of your organization, at the top of your organization, to lead people through. And that's ultimately what it comes down to for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Anthony. And Heath, do you want to add on some challenges from Delta?
Yeah, what I would say is it's nice to hear that everybody has been walking the same challenging path as we have, or being trailblazers for us to watch to see how things are to be done. Yeah, I couldn't echo the comments of Ron or Anthony more than what they have, with the exception I will add this is with regards to when you roll out any type of technology, it's the training piece. So not only, for our members to accept it, and again, there's some people who may not want to or see the value in it, and leads back to what Anthony said with regards to leadership, to show the successes, but it's providing the training to somebody. So as soon as we put something new into place, we have to be able to maintain currency. And so when we're training our individuals, then that starts a whole cycle of challenges with regards to make sure we got the right people on the right seats, and to make sure that to maintain currency, we're providing that training on a regular basis. So in an already full training calendar with use of force and firearms and legal and all the rest of it, it's one more piece that we have to kind of work through and adjust. But again, we see the value in it, so we have to make sure we drive it forward. And having the right people deliver the message. And I know, like I say, I've mentioned it before, you're going to hear from Jim Ingram here for body-worn cameras, but he's really been at the tip of the spear, somebody who's shown an interest and an aptitude. So we've leaned on him heavily with regards to some of our programs. And when Anthony said about external partners and the challenges, we've got them here. Our prosecution service here, they're great and all, but for a lot of you, we have to go to the Crown to lay a charge, where in some of your jurisdictions, you lay the charge. So for us, our disclosure in relation to our body-worn cameras or our drone footage, or even the transcriptions from our body-worn cameras, we've really come up against it, and it's extremely difficult to get it through Crown, and there's hurdles. So they're not as accepting as technology is what we're wanting them to be. So it's adding another layer of work that we need to do just to get them to accept the case in principle for a charge to be laid. So.
If I may, one more item I'd like to add to the challenges list. I would bet everybody in this call, there are people in your organization using AI and you don't know they're using it, whether it's ChatGPT or anything else. And anytime they're using one of those web-enabled ones, your data is leaving your organization. So if you're not keeping an eye on that already, you need to be on top of it. And it's just a caveat. The ability and the opportunities there, the challenge is keeping the reins on it and understanding what you can do safely.
Of course, thank you for adding that. And now, Heath, I think you're reading my mind, because I wanted to go into training next. So whether this is product training, like training on the specific technology, or whether it's, training on the ethical considerations you need to have while using this technology, I'd love to know what goes into that for your organizations. And because, Heath, you touched on it already, I'm going to go over to Anthony first for this one.
Have you ever bought a car and 3 years after you bought it, you accidentally hit a button and you say, oh my gosh, my car does that? And I could have been using that the whole time. Or you hit a button where things don't go well. That's the importance of training and understanding the technologies which you use and which you expect your members to use, and then you expect your community to benefit from. So, the information around the training piece is actually taking a different lens as to how and what the training should be. Generally, the traditional public safety approach to training is scenario here. This is the approach. And, it's always somehow for police comes in a wheel. And then, here are the potential outcomes. I think when it comes to AI, and we talked about the trust and transparency issue, and listen, first, I also want to tell you, I've been a cop for 29 years. I understand that we want to catch bad people, and then we want the justice system to deal with them in the most appropriate way. And I'm all for that. But there are ways to serve the community moving outside the traditional approach, is to really identify the social determinants of health, the risk factors, and provide that information to our partners. This all goes to training as to, we should look at training from a bit of an outside lens, maybe a community focus, looking in to say, what do we expect our public safety agencies, our police agencies to do when they use this type of technology. And then start developing training pieces and blocks and fundamental points around those things. Now, that sounds really nice, but at the end of the day, our members also have to justify their actions and also need concrete training on each one of those technology tools. So there's this symbiotic, I would say, relationship between how we approach training, all these different machinations of the way you can build those pieces. And then there's the delivery. And the delivery is actually the impactful piece. And because if we rely on traditional means of training delivery, we'll never be able to really effectively impact our members. So we have to think outside the box using some of those technologies to actually deliver those training pieces. All those things are challenges. I'm just going to add the one last piece here because I'm a glass half full person generally, is you fit that much more training into a training schedule that is already busting at the seams for every organization. You have your legislative training, you have the training that is mandated either locally or from other federal statute. Then you have the nice to know training that encompasses some, and then you add in some technology training or some training in relation to the use of technology or AI, and you really have to be thoughtful on how you deliver that. So these are some of the challenges not easily overcome, especially in some of the larger services where just sheer number of members make it difficult to train everyone. But then in the smaller services have the opposite effect of having the training capacity to train any types of members. The glass half full on this is technology is actually there to help us deliver this. And if we lean on it, I think that we can deliver the requisite training for everything and anyone involved.
That's so true. And Ron, how about training your members?
Yeah, so training is like an onion, right? It's got layers, and I think we have to decide which layer we need to be presenting which information to. So I think to start, at least in Edmonton's context, our senior leadership, our white shirts, need to have sort of that outer layer of the onion. So what is AI? What are the things that it at a high level can do? What are the risks and what are the potential benefits? And then as you go down from there, we get into more of the here's the potential tools we could be using, and here's the hard skills about how you use those tools. So when you get to the frontline constables and sergeants, et cetera, they're learning the actual hard skills. I think everybody gets training on the principles of AI and what it is and how we should use it and the things we need to be careful to avoid. So the community trust piece of it. You can bleed some of that training into other training that may be required. So in our case, everybody has to do a cybersecurity training every year. So we can insert AI awareness training in our cybersecurity to say your data leaves when you're doing this or when you're doing that. You can do similar things in other training sections if you want to go down that road. I think the one thing that we haven't talked about in the training space is your civilian cohort. And I know members is used largely for both, but your civilian cohort is probably going to be the ones that will be touching this stuff quite regularly in their day-to-day work. So how we approach their training, because they don't have necessarily training days that are in blocks like the sworn side. And I think the last conversation on this is your training section is probably not the best group to train everybody on the use of these tools. So how are you considering your approach to that training? In our case, we have a unit that does our technology training for things like Niche and our other tools that we use in-house. They're going to be the ones that are doing the AI training. The principles and things, we can do that at the higher level. So we're bringing in folks in the fall here for a 1 day with all the white shirts on. Here's AI. Here's what it means at the level of your place in the organization. And then we kind of go down through those layers as we get closer to the front line. It's not something that you're going to take, your average training constable or sergeant and have them be the AI trainer for your organization. So you kind of have to find that those individuals in your organization who have an interest, who have a bit of a passion for it, and will be accepted. Because I can tell you, having worked in policing for a while, having a civilian speak to you on a particular thing related to your job when you were sworn doesn't always go well. So we use a partnership model where we have a civilian and a sworn doing the training for any individuals that are in a uniform in our case, because the context matters. And if the civilian doing the training has no context, it doesn't necessarily land with the sworn.
Great. That's a really good point. Heath, did you want to add anything about the training at Delta?
Yeah, maybe just a couple comments. I really like Ron's analogy there with regards to onion. There's a difference between the policymaker and the practitioner. And, we're a small to medium-sized agency. And so we really do rely on the good graces of those people who have shown an interest and have come forward to kind of drive change in whatever area that is with technology, AI, whatever it is that we're employing. But with that means that, like we chatted about, it's how do you fit it into the calendar as it exists, and is it the right equipment? And everybody wants, I'll tell you this after my 29 years of policing, nobody loves change more than cops. Nobody hates and is as scared of change as cops. So we have to kind of bridge that, and like I say, find the right people, put them in the right seats, and make sure that they're the ones to, especially in our organization, to carry it forward, to move it forward. And I have a lot of faith in the organization, because as I'm starting to wind down in my career, we see the new generation coming in. They're youthful, they know technology far better than I ever thought I would, and then we rely on them. But then from that group as the practitioners, we just have to make sure at the higher level our policies are in sync with what the community wants and what legislation wants, and somewhere in between, hopefully turn the wheel on where we're going with this.
Thank you. Now, I want to look to the future. Ron, I'm going to ask you first, what opportunities do you see ahead for law enforcement and artificial intelligence?
Well, I think the big sky picture on this one, there's a million places where you're going to start to see these. I look at, smart glasses linked to context sensitive data. So officer arrives at the scene, they know there's a police hater living next door to the one that they're going into. They know who's in that house, and they know the guy on the left owns a gun. I think you're going to see that used in the criminal side as well. Forbes magazine has an article today where 2 Harvard students linked facial recognition to Instagram to smart glasses to identify people as they're walking down the street. So you're going to see that in the criminal elements and frauds and various things like that. I think when we talk NG911 and AI, I don't necessarily want graphic images or graphic videos going to my dispatchers, but I sure want an AI tool that will describe the injuries that are on the video to the dispatcher and route that video to some place in the organization where people are prepared mentally to take on what's in that video. So I think you're going to see live streaming, things that will come in and adjust where your information's flow in your service for the betterment of both delivery of service, but protection of people's well-being as we go forward. I think you're going to see all kinds of mobile on the edge type AI processing where officers will have things in their hands or tools in their cars that we probably haven't considered yet. I think we're also going to live in a world where the average member of the public will have access to tools that will make our jobs much more challenging at the roadside as well. So when we talk about facial rec, when that's commoditized and the bad guys have facial rec and we have officers on Facebook and Instagram, what does that mean for officer safety and well-being? So I think the road ahead is bumpy as far as the potential bad uses for AI. I think the opportunities are wide for the good uses of AI. It'll be choosing the right use cases is the challenge for the leaders on the call today.
Definitely. Now, Heath, I'm going to bounce back to you. What opportunities do you see ahead?
Yeah, much like Ron, I think it's a wide scope, variable kind of buffet of where we can go with this type of technology. I mean, you look at the predictive policing models that are starting to roll out. Again, there's some concerns with that with regards to community groups. We have to watch what happens there. CCTV, facial recognition. I think there's some large US states that are using CCTV in their real-time crime centers there with the facial rec that has great results to it. And, I think that could be a way to go in order to keep the public safe. But it's the bridge. It's how we employ it. And I think we've seen over history here, it's almost like the old statements we used to make about computer technology, garbage in, garbage out. It's how do we program them and where do we place it in regards to what our priorities are. We've seen what happens when social media companies tell the algorithm, go get more context or give people what they want or whatever it is. If we're very cavalier in how we approach that, we could end up with a lot of public trust issues. So I think we have to manage that accordingly. I think the benefits of keeping the public safe are there. They're absolutely there. It's just how we manage it. And it's like I said at the top of this, we want to embrace it. We want to celebrate where it's going to come to us. We have to be very careful of our vendors and who we accept with regards to some of this technology. And make sure, as both Ron and Anthony said, not just the shiny toy. We have to really understand it before we move forward with it, because, you know, there's could be some choppy waters out there.
Speaking of the shiny toy, I know he's retiring, but did Chief DuBoard have a thing with shiny things too?
He did. He is retired. And I will say this, in his time here, he's been very innovative. And quite frankly, he has been really driving this organization forward with regards to technology and technological solutions. If he had left it up to somebody with me who's a bit of an old school kind of curmudgeon avoiding technology, I'm not so certain that we'd be where we're at today. So my hat's off to him.
That's so funny. Anthony, same question to you. What opportunities do you see ahead?
Well, actually, as Ron and Heath were talking, I put that question into ChatGPT, and it spit out a big picture of an onion with Ron Anderson's face beside it. They said use it as an analogy, and I guess the analogy would be for the future of AI is when you peel back all those layers. We just hope not to make anyone cry. And I think that is a bit of a lesson in there is about the responsible use. Ron, I think between Ron and Heath, they pretty much laid out almost every example that I was going to speak about. But I do want to talk about the possibilities with next generation 911, if you just indulge me for like 30 seconds. I do believe that, as the chief has said, and maybe a little exaggerated, that we are going to face a tsunami of data. But I'm positive about that, in fact, because it's the data that's going to help us either respond and share with our first responder agencies and our social service partners and our other systems. I think once having those collaborative data sharing approaches together, we can really harness the use of AI to be able to share and appropriately respond. And I'm with Ron. Just right now in Toronto, Peel's hosting the Provincial Communicators Conference. And the hot button topic is around next generation 911 and the uncertainty of what our call takers and communicators might face. And I don't think that the visuals may be that pleasant in some circumstances, but certainly they might be very helpful for a paramedicine unit on the way to a call to understand the extent of injuries, or a fire department to understand what the extent of damage or fire or life or safety of life, and even police. So there has to be the future opportunity is assessing the amount of data that we get, and then putting some good rules in place around who needs it, how can we share it, and the appropriate dissemination of it. And I think if we think of it that way, then we won't get into this debate. 30 years ago when I started, you weren't allowed to have email unless you wrote a letter to the chief to explain why email was beneficial for you. And could you imagine today not doing your job without some form of communication like email? And that's email, right? Like that's even past day. So we don't ever want to get into a position where we're trying to justify not using it. What we do want to get into a position is about how we use it, and then how we're able to really leverage it. And by listening to folks like Ron and Heath, even today I learn all the time on how these folks are using it. It really lets me take back home some other opportunities for future.
I'm still stuck on the email is passé. Like it's gone, like email's done. Now, before I turn it over to audience questions, I kind of love asking this question. Even though we don't live in a perfect world, if we did, is there a piece of AI technology that's either out there now or you could foresee being created in the future that you think would really help your team and help out public safety in your community? This was kind of like a crazy question I'm throwing out there, so I'm not going to point at anyone. I'm going to let whoever wants to speak first, they can jump in.
I'll take a first run, just because I've seen in the Q&A sessions, there's questions around the use of AI technology with partner agencies. And, you heard Chief Nish speak about it. And I think a great technology for public safety is one, in fact, that could put us out of business, is one, in fact, that allows community to access services based on information that does not necessarily require a police response. You know, there'll always be police response. There's always going to be emergency situations. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about around the 80% of calls that we get that are not criminal in nature, that allows community to access resources proactively ahead of time that may not even, again, bring policing into the picture. And when it does, allows us to respond appropriately and most importantly, effectively and with compassion and empathy. So yeah, my succinct answer to that is, in a perfect world, AI technology that limits the burdens on police to solve social issues that shouldn't be solved by police, and allows community greater access to resources other than first responder.
Perfect. Ron or Heath, do you want to add anything? It looks like Ron does.
Yeah, I'll take a shot. I think for me, you know, looking at other industries and seeing where they're going, and seeing how those can help in the policing and safety world. So I look at logistics and information flow. So the public, everybody's carrying a smartphone, all vehicles have GPS, everything else has all that type of data available. So when the public needs something, to Anthony's point, it doesn't necessarily come to the police or a 911 center or whatever. It goes through a logistics AI tool of some kind and directs people to the help they need, whether it's homelessness or it's food instability or whatever that is. I don't think we can expect government to sort of bring all these nonprofits and things together, but I think there's a lot of smart young students developing things with a passion for the community that are going to start to bring these things to our door. So I think if we leverage the things that are being used for things like delivering your Amazon packages properly, but in the context of the human services, there's opportunity for big change there.
Awesome. And Heath, do you have anything to add?
No, I couldn't agree more. I never really thought about it when Anthony did talk about using AI to delineate, you know, people away from calling the police. I can't speak for everybody, but for here, we do not have enough services to fill the gap. So, you know, police are always the first and seemingly the last call that people make, and it's because we're 365, 7 days a week, and 24/7, you know, and the number's easy to reach us, 911. So, and there just isn't enough of the other services out there to get people off of the call board to call the police. So I thought it was a really good point from Anthony, and if AI can do anything, I'd like to see it go that way.
Fantastic. I just want to, those are all my questions. So I just wanted to say thank you guys for joining us today. If anyone has any questions, I think I might have seen one. There we go. Question from the audience here for you guys. It says, can systems like Amber Alerts be expanded to support calls for a system to communicate missing Indigenous women and girls?
I can take a run at that if you want, guys. So yeah, Amber Alert has a specific purpose and its piece there. There are other tools in the market. Missing Children Society Canada Rescue App, for example, has geofenced alerting and partners in with Facebook and Kijiji and everything else to push this stuff out to the public in the area. So I think it's already there in some respect. And you know, whether you're talking about missing autism people, elderly folks, or missing and murdered Indigenous women, the tools are there. It's about getting police agency and governments to adopt them. Because I think that's already something that's there to be had. It's about an adoption piece at this point.
Perfect. Anthony or Heath? Oh, I see Anthony.
Yeah, I just want to, I think Ron said it all very succinctly, and Ron and I are together using a similar tool, and specifically in relation to our Indigenous communities. The challenge always lies around ensuring that we are able to disseminate the information in the appropriate time. And part of that challenge not only is the adoption from a government and public safety, but it's adoption from community. Community has to consent to receiving, other than Amber Alert, some of these things, or sort of register. And you know, we're being thoughtful about how we do that. And again, technology and AI is great, but it's all about your authentic human relationships with your communities. Are you engaging with your communities only in times of crisis, or are you doing the work ahead of time so that in the time of crisis, community knows how we are engaging, how we want to engage, and where to go get the information. So there's still some real live manual work to be done around the opportunities for AI and technology.
Fantastic. And Heath, I'll give you one last chance just before I wrap things up. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just on that, it is about established trust. And, here in Delta, we work with Tsawwassen First Nations, and it has been a road for us to be able to bridge the relationship, gain the trust. It's all a part of the reconciliation. And I think now that we've been able to do that through the hard work of a lot of dedicated people on both within the department and within the First Nation, those open lines of communications on circumstances as what was asked are easily managed.
Perfect. Thank you. Again, thank you to Heath, to Ron, to Anthony for spending the last hour with me. I know I asked you a lot of questions, and you've probably talked about AI for the past year and a half, and it's going to continue. I have a feeling like it's just going to keep going. So thank you all so much for your insights today. And I know that our audience has taken away some good stuff. I've been getting messages saying thank you. So just want to say thank you again.